Port Charles has been through its fair share of chaos, heartbreak, and unfathomable mysteries, but nothing could prepare the town for the dark undercurrent of psychological warfare that's about to explode. At the center of the storm are two once beloved figures, Morgan Britt, presumed dead, and Dr. Britt Westbourne, whose reemergence was met with both joy and suspicion. But behind their return lies something far more sinister. Dalton's boss, the true puppeteer of an insidious mind control operation. This 4,000-word exposé dives deep into the shocking reprogramming of Morgan and Britt, the attacks that follow, and the revelation of the villain who may destroy everything Sonny Corinthos and Anna Devane have fought to protect. Dalton Granger, the shadowy figure who'd been lurking around the periphery of several mysterious events, including the disappearance of Dante Falconeri's mission file and the break-in at GH's neurological wing, has long been suspected of working for a higher authority. That theory proved devastatingly accurate when he was seen entering a luxury suite at the Metro Court with a man simply referred to as Langston. Langston, a former high-ranking military psychologist turned rogue operative, has ties to several dark ops missions dating back to the late 1990s. His reputation? Using unorthodox and deeply disturbing brainwashing techniques on soldiers, spies, and prisoners. And now, his sights are locked on Port Charles. When Britt returned to GH, she was hailed as a heroine, a doctor with a troubled past who had turned her life around. She took on cases no one else would touch. She comforted Willow. She consulted on Jake's seizures. And most recently, she joined the newly reformed WSB task force led by Anna. But no one noticed the cracks in her behavior. She forgot names she used to know. She stared blankly at familiar places like the hospital stairwell where she once conspired with Brad. And on one chilling night, she stood completely still in the GH parking lot for 47 minutes, her eyes unblinking, before quietly walking away. Unbeknownst to anyone, Langston had activated her programming, buried suggestions planted during her disappearance in Budapest, where she claimed to have been in recovery. If Britt's return was shocking, Morgan's was earth-shattering. Sonny Corinthos could barely believe his eyes when Morgan walked into the Corinthos coffee warehouse, bruised but very much alive. Carly sobbed in disbelief. Michael and Jocelyn were speechless. Only Jason showed hesitation, sensing something was off. Morgan claimed he had been held captive in a secret facility in Eastern Europe, escaped, and made his way back. But what he didn't reveal was that he hadn't escaped, he'd been sent. In truth, Morgan had been reprogrammed during his captivity. His memories had been fractured, then rebuilt with a fabricated narrative, one designed to make him trust only a voice in his head, Langston's. The calm didn't last long. During a routine night shift at GH, chaos erupted when Britt administered a new experimental sedative to Dr. Hamilton Finn, claiming it was for research purposes. Within minutes, Finn collapsed, seizing and foaming at the mouth. Maxie Jones, who had come to check on a printing error in the lab, witnessed it and became Britt's next target. But just as Britt pulled a scalpel, she froze mid-strike. Her hand trembled, her breath caught, and she muttered, "Abort Directive 9.6. Langston, no, I can't." Maxie used that moment to hit the emergency alarm. Britt fled. Finn was stabilized but left in critical condition. Maxie was shaken and finally admitted she had overheard Britt speaking German in the locker room 2 weeks earlier, to someone on a scrambled line. Jason Morgan and Anna Devane have always been unlikely allies, but this time, they're on the same wavelength. Both had been suspicious of Dalton, and both had independently tracked coded communications that led to the same source, a defunct WSB black site known as Facility Echo 12, shuttered after rumors of illegal memory manipulation programs surfaced. Anna uncovered that Langston had worked there. Jason hacked into the facility's last data dump and found personnel files marked Subject Omega 9 and Subject Theta 6, designations later confirmed to be Morgan Corinthos and Britt Westbourne. And the worst part? Jason found evidence suggesting Langston had set these two loose in Port Charles as a test run for a broader operation. An army of brainwashed agents, programmed for specific tasks, including assassination, sabotage, and emotional destabilization. Langston finally stepped out of the shadows. He made his public debut at the Port Charles Gala for Global Peace, introduced as a philanthropist supporting mental health programs. Britt accompanied him, dressed elegantly, her smile too perfect. Morgan was also there, distant, expressionless, scanning the crowd as if waiting for a signal. And then came the next attack. Laura Collins was the target. As mayor, Laura had quietly opened an investigation into Dalton's nonprofit, unknowingly poking a hornet's nest. As she gave her speech, Britt slowly approached with a champagne flute, laced with a neurotoxin developed in Echo 12. But Morgan intervened, not to save Laura, but to ensure Langston could get close enough to whisper in Laura's ear, "Pull out, or I'll take out your son next." Then he vanished. Carly, ever intuitive, knew her son wasn't whole. She began tracking Morgan's behavior, noting his increasingly robotic mannerisms. She even discovered an old notebook hidden in his room, filled with dates, code words, and sketches of the Metro Court's blueprint. Jason took the notebook to Spinelli, who ran it through his algorithm and matched the sketches to a potential attack planned on Port Charles PD, possibly involving explosives. Carly confronted Morgan. "I don't know who you are anymore," she said, tears in her eyes. "But I know my son would never hurt innocent people." Morgan's expression broke for a moment. A tear, a flicker of guilt, then a cold, practiced smile. "You were right, Mom. I'm not him. Not anymore." Langston escalated. He triggered a secondary directive in Britt's programming, one designed for chaos. During a medical outreach event at the Charles Street Clinic, Britt entered a trance and slipped a contaminated syringe into a batch of flu vaccines. Curtis Ashford was the first to be injected. Moments later, he collapsed, convulsing. TJ, trying to resuscitate him, was exposed and went into shock. It was Sasha who realized the tampering, and thanks to her quick thinking and Deanna's aid, the contaminated batch was destroyed. But the damage was done. Curtis survived but sustained nerve damage. TJ was left in a coma. Sonny saw red. With his son corrupted, Britt unleashed, and Port Charles under siege, Sonny declared a full-scale war on Langston. He summoned Brick, Dex, and even reached out to Valentine Cassadine, who owed him a favor after the Buenos Aires incident. Together, they launched a counter-operation, using Spinelli's intel to locate Langston's safe houses, scramble his communication nodes, and begin psychologically deprogramming Morgan. Meanwhile, Anna and Jason worked with Andre Maddox, who had once helped erase and rebuild Drew Kane's memories. Andre believed he could reverse the brainwashing, but only if Morgan was willing. As the heat rose, Britt's psyche began to fracture. Haunted by what she'd done to Finn and nearly to Laura, she fought the programming. Langston attempted to override her remotely, but Britt's love for Spencer, her final memory before Budapest, created a fissure Langston couldn't close. In a desperate move, Britt walked into GH and turned herself in. Anna approached her with caution. "Why now?" Britt wept. "Because I'm still me, somewhere under all this." Sonny and Jason finally cornered Morgan at the site of a planned hit on the WSB transport convoy. Sonny begged him to stop. "I buried you once," Sonny whispered. "Don't make me lose you again." Morgan hesitated. Langston's voice echoed in his ear via the microimplant. "Eliminate them both." But instead, Morgan turned the gun on himself. Jason lunged, knocking it from his hand. Morgan dropped to his knees, sobbing. "I remember the bombs, the water, the screams. I remember dying. But I also remember how much I loved you all." Andre arrived just in time to begin treatment. Morgan was taken into protective custody, where his deprogramming began. Cornered, Langston tried to flee Port Charles, but was intercepted by Anna, Jason, and an emotionally unchained Sonny. "I don't fear death," Langston said calmly. "You can kill me, but the seeds are planted." Morgan and Britt were just the beginning. And with that, he smirked, then triggered a self-destruct device on his body. Jason barely got Anna and Sonny out of the way as Langston exploded, leaving behind nothing but scorched cement and lingering dread. Finn recovered with long-term neurological support. TJ awoke from his coma after a harrowing 2 weeks, his first words being, Where's Curtis? Curtis, though damaged, began rehabilitation with Portia by his side. Britt, now in WSB custody, worked with Andre to fully regain her identity. There's talk of her testifying against other underground cells trained by Langston. Morgan, still fragile, remains in a secure mental health facility in Switzerland under watchful care. He sends letters to Sunny, Carly, and Jocelyn, some lucid, others terrifying. But through it all, Port Charles remains strong. Shaken, but not broken. Because even in the darkest corners of the mind, light finds a way back. And as Jason told Anna while watching the sunrise over the harbor, no matter who pulls the strings, the heart always remembers who it is.